Well, they're changing the voting rules again. The October surprise is next. Hurricanes could be this election's October surprise. Florida is bracing for a storm of biblical proportions. The Tampa mayor says, leave or die.
I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Hurricane Milton, a Cat 5. Seasoned meteorologists are so worried they're crying.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
It's an act of God, so we should put our political differences aside. But we're a month before an election, so Kamala Harris says Governor DeSantis is refusing to take her calls.
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader doesn't people first. People are in desperate need of support right now.
DeSantis firing back, saying not only did Kamala never call him, he doesn't need her to. He's already talking to her boss.
We've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president. So this has the potential to be one of the most damaging storms in the history of our country. And can we not just focus on the livelihoods and the well-being of the people? Why is she trying to politicize this? Why is she putting her campaign ahead of the well-being of the people of Florida? I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games.
This isn't a very good look for Kamala. The state of Florida is about to get rocked. People are about to die. Why is she making up stories about the governor?
You and Governor DeSantis have been going back and forth, trading jabs. Now, he said this morning you've never called regarding any of the storms Florida has had since you've been vice president until apparently now, and called it political. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I have called and talked with, in the course of this crisis, this most recent crisis, Democrat and Republican governors. Called, taken the call, answered the call, had a conversation. So obviously, this is not an issue that is about partisanship or politics for certain leaders, but maybe is for others.
And that's quite the dodge. I've called lots of governors. Then Biden, while Harris was on The View, got in front of the cameras and called her a liar.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call. So I don't know. There was a rough start in some places, but every governor from Florida to North Carolina has been fully cooperative and supportive and acknowledged what this team is doing.
This is the second time Joe big-footed Kamala this week. First, Biden shocked reporters when he showed up to Friday's White House briefing during Kamala's campaign event, so she couldn't take credit for the port strike resolution. And now he comes out today and says, Kamala, sit this one out. Joe and Ron, we got Florida covered. This all comes at a weird time for Kamala. She can't decide whether she's a Biden Democrat or an Obama Democrat. Well, Joe's not giving her a choice. The most unpopular president in modern history is visiting the battlegrounds and reminding voters that Kamala's his VP.
As Kamala would say, this is the United States of America, for God's sake. There's no safe level of lead exposure, period. That's why Kamala and I are the first administration to take on the challenge once and for all. And we're delivering. One of the many reasons Kamala and I fought so hard to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Kamala and I, they don't like those words over at the Harris campaign. Is Joe Biden the dumbest politician in Washington or the pettiest? it's almost as if he thinks his legacy will be better if Kamala loses. If he goes down, she's going down with him. America First legal founder and former senior advisor to President Trump, Stephen Miller, is here. You know, it's not that hard to handle a hurricane if you're a politician. You just don't play politics. Hug some people, get them the resources. Apparently she can't do it.
But she was asked a question, point blank. Up until today, have you ever called the governor of Florida about any hurricane during your entire time as vice president? And her non-answer is an answer. It's no. She hasn't cared at all, not even a little bit. And we saw that lack of caring when his borders are. What did she do? She diverted all the FEMA funds to illegal aliens. Now FEMA is broke. They can't help Americans. Why? Because Kamala cares about illegals more. And as for Joe Biden stepping all over her message and correcting her on Ron DeSantis, I'm willing to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt and say he's ending his time as president with a very patriotic act, which is telling America in the only ways that he can that Kamala is unfit, that she's a liar, and that she shouldn't be president. Is about as much as he can do without losing his exit package for himself and his family.
Do you believe that Biden deep down wants her to lose because he could say, see, I told you so. You never should have whacked me. I would have done better against Trump. See, look what you did. Now we lost the House, the Senate, and the White House.
I think yes, but I also think he knows she's an airhead. Like, let's not like kid around here. He's been in meetings with her. How many times do you think he was rolling his eyes, just waiting for her to stop talking, to get out of the room when she's pontificating about burdens and unburdenings and solutions and all the work that she's done? He was probably begging the sweet Lord for mercy to just have Kamala stop talking and leave the room so the grown-ups could get back to business. I am certain that the idea that a dunderhead like her would be kicking him off the ballot is more than this man can possibly stop.
We heard some sound at the top when The View asked, would you have done anything differently with Joe Biden? And she said, nah, nothing really comes to mind. We were talking in the commercial break. Her entire campaign strategy is based on what? Like turning the page.
This was literally the entire campaign strategy. Billions of dollars. They sat in focus groups for weeks coming up with this slogan, new way forward, turn the page, turn the page. All this candidate had to do, this very deeply unimpressive candidate, would have to come up with one single thing to justify their campaign's entire narrative. She just blew up billions of dollars in very rich Democrats spending. That is how empty she is upstairs. There is not one thought in that head that is even remotely cogent. That's what we're dealing with.
Before we let you go, we just have to address the elephant in the room. We're getting a lot of texts from women about Miller and his appearances and his appearance. Our audience at primetime believes you're some sort of sexual matador. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, let me give advice to any young man that's out there. I'm married now, I have children, but I wasn't married that long ago. I was single, I was in the market. If you're a young man, it's very important in election season, who's looking to impress ladies, to be the alpha, to be attractive. The best thing you can do is to wear your Trump support on your sleeve. Show that you are a real man. Show that you are not a beta, right? Be a proud and loud Trump supporter, and your dating life will be fantastic.
I cannot wait to see the text tonight. Stephen Miller, thank you.
Thank you.
Take it easy on the ladies. Fox News alert, Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc on North Carolina. The state will be reeling from the damage for years. And the storm just isn't impacting people's lives. It's affecting the election. Last night, the North Carolina Board of Elections announced changes to voting rules in counties impacted by Hurricane Helene. And some people are concerned. Senior political correspondent Kevin Cork is here. Kevin.
Evening, Jesse. They're talking about major changes in the voting process. Now, this is, they say, designed to help displaced voters in the Tar Heel state not only cast their ballots, but also make sure they have their voices heard this November. However, some Republicans are expressing deep reservations about the plan because of concerns about voter integrity. Now, the changes were approved by unanimous vote by the bipartisan board, coming just 10 days before early voting begins in the battleground state, and even as mail-in voting is already underway. Now, a couple of the changes I want to tell you about, including this: voters in the 13 counties that have been heavily affected by Hurricane Helene will now have more ways to obtain and deliver absentee ballots. By the way, more storms coming possibly. Voters in those counties will have longer to apply for absentee ballots. They'll be allowed to drop their ballots off anywhere in the state, not just in their home county. There will also be teams that will be sent to storm relief centers to help register more voters and, you guessed it, collect more ballots. What's more, the county boards will also be able to, by a bipartisan majority, hire poll workers from other counties and then move them all around the state to ensure there are enough experienced workers at each voting site. Now, the problem is, say critics, Jesse, we don't know where they're going to draw these poll workers from. And with ballots being able to be dropped off anywhere in the state, how can anyone accurately contest voter turnout discrepancies, say in different counties? And keep this in mind, North Carolina was one of the last states to report back in 2020. It took them 10 days to certify the general election, despite being a relatively small state. Now, I can also add this very quickly. President Trump's team, the Trump-Vance campaign, issued a statement tonight asking for more access for North Carolinians. They say it is super important that the people who've already suffered from the storm don't lose their right to take part in this important election. And big amen for that, Jesse.
I don't know if I love or hate these late changes in the election law, but I know Mark Elias, the Democrat election lawyer who specializes in shenanigans, loves it. So that makes me a little suspicious, but who knows what's going to happen. It could work out.
Yeah.
We'll cover it as it unfolds. Kevin, thank you so much.
You bet.
Well, Walls says he's sleeping with Kamala Harris.